So you're here because you're probably having a baby sometime in the future. Congratulations. I just want to say you have everything that you need in order to birth this baby. You are meant to have an amazing birth. I'm so grateful that you clicked on this video, and let's get right into this video and see, how do you write a birth plan? What are the things that should be on it if you're having a home birth? I'm just excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to get into this video. So let's roll the clips.
Hello, moon. I reach through mysterious sea.
Hello lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel and you just randomly happen to find it because you're looking on how do you plan for a home birth, then welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. It means so much to me that you decided to click on this video, and I hope that the information that I have for you is very valuable to you. So if you're new here, I am a 3-time home birther. My most recent birth was in December of last year, which I actually filmed and uploaded onto YouTube. But both of my last 2 births were supernatural births in that I almost had no pain at all with my second birth, and my third birth was completely pain-free until the last 15 minutes of my birth. So it was an amazing experience, and if you're interested in seeing how I was able to do that, I have a lot of different videos on my channel. You can watch the birth itself if that interests you, but let's get right into the meat of this video. If you're new to my channel and you do enjoy this kind of content, I just want to remind you to hit the subscribe button and join the fam. It means so much to me, each and every one of you that are here. I make videos about homemaking, I do weekly vlogs, and I do content all about birth very, very often. So let's get into the rest of the video, and I'm so happy that you guys are here. Okay, so you're planning to have a home birth, right? Having a home birth is distinctly different than having a hospital birth, which I'm sure you know. So things are gonna look a little bit different in this video. If you're planning a hospital birth, this is probably not the video for you, as I cannot speak to that myself. I've had 3 home births, and I've only had home births. So there's other videos for you to watch, but if you're planning a home birth, then stick around. I have some tips and things to share with you as to how I planned for my births, how I wrote my first birth plan, and then kind of like what I did consecutively in my second and third births. So number 1, you're gonna imagine yourself in labor. This is the first thing you're gonna do. You're gonna imagine yourself in labor, and you're going to picture what it's gonna be like and what you would like to feel during your birth. So whether that is you feel calm, you feel empowered, you feel strengthened, you feel just a peacefulness throughout your birth. There are very specific feelings that you want to have written down. Now, why is this important? This is because you can train your brain. You actually can train your brain to go to this place before you are ever in labor. So this is an exercise that you're gonna do before you actually enter into labor. But right now what you're gonna do is you're just gonna imagine yourself, okay? And you're gonna go to this place, this beautiful place. You're gonna imagine how you feel with your baby, how you feel connected, how your body feels. You're going to imagine how long you want your birth to take and all these things. Now, obviously, this is a birth plan. Sometimes things don't go to plan, but obviously you should plan for the best, right? So why not imagine your birth in the way that you want it to go? I'm a huge advocate for what you put into your mind is what eventually will come out. So if you're thinking negative thoughts and thinking about how horrible this pregnancy has been or how tired you are all the time, instead of thinking about the positive aspects, you're probably gonna have a more difficult labor, or dreading labor. Even if you're dreading your labor, you're probably not going to have a great labor experience. So put it into your mind the things that you want to have happen. Something that you could think about is, how are your needs being met while you're in labor? Are you well rested? Are you well fed? Are your needs being met, your physical needs? Are you comfortable? Do you have the people around you and your support team that you want to have around you? And things like that. Number 2, the bare minimum is healthy baby, healthy mama. Now, oftentimes this phrase is used as, oh, well, at least you're healthy and at least your baby is healthy. No, sister, no, no, no. That is the bare minimum of what should happen in a birth. You should feel respected. You should feel like you had an amazing birth. You should feel connected to your baby. You should feel like the things that matter to you and your requests were honored. You need to know that you were made for this, that your body is completely capable of doing the hard work, the hard labor of bringing your baby into this world. You should feel respected. You should feel like your team respects you as the mama, that you know intuitively how to birth, because you were made for this, right? Now, if you don't feel respected right now in your pregnancy with your providers, I would honestly suggest that you switch providers now, because if you don't feel respected and heard during your pregnancy, you most definitely are not going to feel respected and heard during your labor and birth. And that's super important. It's super important that you feel connected to the people that are providing care for you, right? And that your needs are being met and heard as much as possible. You know, sometimes things do go a little haywire and some things need to change as things progress, but you know, going into it, you really should feel like they have your best interest at heart and you're just understood. And this would also apply to your doula. So whoever your doula is, you should feel like that doula is like your best friend, because really they're gonna see everything, you know, and they're gonna be there in one of the most vulnerable times of your life. So I would say those two things are super important: who your doula is and who your midwife is. Okay, so we've got the two most important things out of the way. Now, what is the third most important thing? Is that you are going to write down the most important things, the top 3 things that you want to have happen at your birth. Now, these can be positions you want to give birth in, positions you want to be able to be in while you're in labor, such as, you know, if you want to walk, if you want to be able to leave your house and walk around your neighborhood in labor, if you want to be able to eat and drink during your labor. Those are pretty typical things that you're able to do in a home birth situation, which you're not usually able to do in a hospital setting. Being induced at home would include things such as breaking your water manually or taking a midwife's brew. Now, the midwife's brew technically doesn't put you in labor unless you're ready to be put in labor, but you still have an option as to whether or not you want to do any kind of, per se, interventions in order to get things moving. Obviously, you as the mom have the right to choose whether or not you want to do that. Now, there are situations where those interventions are necessary, but in most cases you don't usually need to do them unless things are not progressing well. But you should be able to trust your midwife, you know. that's the ultimate thing that I said in the previous point, is you want to be able to trust your midwife to say, okay, I really do think that we need to like move things along, or you've been in labor for so long, I think we should do this or that. You should be able to trust them, but at the same time they should be able to respect you as well. Now, I'm not a medical professional, and obviously I have always, when I've had a desire for something, I have always said, okay, well, let's pray about it, and then, or if you don't have peace about it, don't do those things. So in my labor with Gabriel, I actually at one point was going to need, because I was stuck at like a 9.5. I was literally almost about to have him, and I was stopping to progress, and my cervix was starting to get swollen on one side, and from what I understand, things can be a slippery slope downhill from that point once your cervix starts to swell. I have a little bit of an opinion about why that started to happen in my labor, but I'm not entirely sure if that was the case of what was going on. So I'm not going to share my own opinion on that. But during my labor, I started to swell up on one side of my cervix. So there were like 3 options of things that we could do for interventions to try to get my body to continue to go into labor and not stall out. I did not have peace with 2 or 3 of the different options that we were given, which was, one was to break my water manually. I did not want to do that. And then the other was to take Lobelia, and I did not want to do that either because there are some side effects with that as well. It can start to make it can basically stall out labor, essentially, is what can happen, and it can really irritate your cervix. And then the other option was, to have each contraction go by, but while each contraction was happening, have one of my midwives with her hand in my cervix holding it open so that it would continue to open all the way so baby could be born. And that was extremely excruciatingly painful. I wasn't having any pain during labor at all unless I was being checked, and I did not want to go through that, and so none of the options sounded good. But so we were like, okay, let's take a moment, let's pray about it. My husband and I prayed, and in the moment that my husband prayed and commanded my water to break, my water broke. And so that is just an example of like, I declined all three of those things. We prayed, asked the Lord to do it himself, and he broke my water for me. So thank you, Jesus. That was awesome. So that's just an example of something that may be important to you. Maybe it's important to you to have that golden hour where baby is, you know, minimally checked, and you have that 1 hour where you really bond with the baby on your chest. And then after that 1 hour goes by and you've been able to nurse and or connect with your baby, and then you have your placenta expelled after that, like really get into like all the newborn testing that they need to do on baby. To me, that's really important, to have that golden hour where you are holding your baby and you're not separated from them. And it was something that I even got to do with Gabriel after he was born. My home birth with Gabriel ended in us actually going to the NICU with him because he was having a little bit of trouble transitioning and being able to breathe and getting enough oxygen in his lungs. So with Gabriel, though, I was so grateful that my midwifery team was very careful to allow me to bond with my baby before actually making the ultimate call. Now, if it had been an extreme emergency, obviously we would have, you know, not done that and just headed straight to the hospital. They did give him the time to see if he was going to start to nurse, which was, he was breathing, but he was starting to retract. And so it got to the point where we were like, okay, we need to make the decision, we need to go. But I really am so grateful that I was able to hold him for the couple of hours or the hour and a half that I was able to before we left, because I was able to bond with him in that way, because I didn't get to hold him almost at all for like the first 3 days of his life. So just a little side note. Some things can be like wants, where this absolutely has to happen. Like, for example, I want to be able to drink water and eat food. Absolutely has to happen. And then other things are subjective, like having checks on baby continuously throughout your labor. Those things can be subjective depending on how you're progressing, depending on how baby's responding to labor. So after you get your top 3 things, or if you're a first-time mom, you might want to do this one first, which is educate yourself. So obviously, if you've never had a baby before, you're gonna want to research. If you have had a previous birth, then I would say educate yourself more on the topic. And then your things might change a little bit. You might add something, you might take something off. You're gonna want to know physiologically what happens in birth. However, you're gonna be careful about what you put in your mind. Again, you're gonna be careful about where you're getting this information from. So be very selective. If the birth and the outcome is not what you want, you probably don't want to be listening or looking at those things. So the idea here is you want to educate yourself enough, especially if you're a person that deals with anxiety or fear. You're going to want to educate yourself enough that you feel comfortable, that you know what is happening with your birth, you know what's going to happen with your body, you know how your cervix is going to dilate and efface, you're going to know how your baby comes down from the birth canal, you're going to want to know like how, different hip positions, different positions for your feet, which actually allow your hips to open more during birth. You're going to want to know those things. So I would suggest you go to a childbirthing class if you've never been to one. I did go through one with my first birth with my doula. Actually, she was a childbirth educator as well, and that really helped me a lot to know what's happening with my body so that I wasn't fearful. But if you continue to go down the rabbit hole of this, if you're a person who's fearful or anxious, you can tend to like not feel comfortable, and it would be detrimental to your birth experience, is what I'm trying to say. So educate yourself enough, but not so much that you get fearful. So I have a couple of resources for you that I really have loved, and I think I started following these accounts on Instagram when I was pregnant with Gabriel. The first one is called Birth Uprising. There's lots of good information on here about different like things about birth, things you won't learn in a 5-minute OB appointment is what her or a 7-minute OB appointment. So I've learned a lot about birth from this one account particularly. Another resource for you guys is actually my friend Miriam Wathen. Her account is Mirjo, and she is actually a doula. So this is what her account looks like. If you scroll down a little bit, she has some great information on there, and then she has some highlights that are really interesting. So she's a doula. She's actually a childhood friend of mine. We actually did an interview a while back on her podcast. I was a guest on there. So we talked about supernatural birth, and she interviews a lot of different mamas. So if you want to check out her podcast as well, that's a great resource. And just if you love hearing birth stories as well, that would be a good resource for you as well. You're going to want to educate yourself also about the issues of circumcision, whether or not you're going to do that, whether or not you're going to do certain procedures with your newborn baby. You're going to want to educate yourself a lot about all of these things yourself. You're going to want to really delve deep into things. I'm going to link a few resources down below that I think that every parent should know, and I think it will be of great service to you in order to make an educated, well-rounded decision. So number 5, which I think is the most important thing out of anything, if you get anything out of this video, this is the most important thing. What goes in must come out, and this is so key when you're talking about your birth story and the way that your birth plan and the things that you want to have happen in your birth. You need to really watch what you listen to and what you hear during your pregnancy. So if you have people, this happened to me so many times when I was pregnant with Bethany. First of all, I worked in the medical field as a translator slash interpreter and an assistant in a medical clinic. And so I heard a lot of stuff when I was in there pregnant with my first baby, and I got really scared about giving birth because people liked to share their trauma birth stories with me. And now this happened in that clinic, but it also happened outside of that clinic, and it wasn't good. It didn't lead my mind to anywhere good or safe. It just led my mind down rabbit trails of, oh my gosh, what if this happens to me, kind of thing. And so you cannot allow your mind to entertain thoughts of fear and of what could possibly go wrong in your birth. So a good tip is that if someone starts to tell you their horror story of birth and you start to realize, oh no, this is not good, this is not going to be good for me to listen to because I'm going to be traumatized, is you can kindly ask them to pause, and be like, hey, you know what, I am actually really trying to guard what I listen to and the things that I allow into my heart, and I really appreciate you trying to share your story with me, but maybe we could talk about it after I've actually given birth, because I really want to be careful about the things that I meditate on during pregnancy, and this isn't something that I want to really listen to right now. You can say it in nicer terms than that, obviously, and just leave it at that. And people might get offended at that, but hey, it's more important that you have an amazing birth, and you can't ever get that back. Those are just my tips. Now, let's talk about something real quick. Obviously, this is a plan. It is not something that is like per se guaranteed it's going to happen this way. No, it's just a guideline. But the most important thing is you keep your mind in the right place, because you can train your brain to actually imagine things as though they've already happened, and then go into it and then get right back to that place of peace. Like if you're training your mind, like, I'm going to have a peaceful birth, I'm going to have an amazing birth in this way or that way, and you go in your bathtub and you just listen to your birth affirmations, or like that's what I did with Gabriel. I had a list of things that I would listen to on my phone. It's still in here. It's my birth confessions for Gabriel, labor confessions, and I would go in my bath, I would sit in there and I would listen to it, and I would calm myself down, I would calm my heart rate, calm my breathing. And when I was in labor, I listened to it, and it brought me back to that calm space, that safe space that I had in my mind of, this is how my birth is gonna go. And I promise you guys, you can watch my birth video. I felt no pain at all until the last 15 minutes, and that was mostly due to the midwives were kicking in, and I got a little bit fearful at the end because I thought I was gonna have to give birth on my back. Well, hello there. My video stopped abruptly because my camera shut off and I forgot to go back and finish that last point. So here I am in the future recording this for you to end out the video. I hope you don't mind. But what I was trying to get at is, this is a birth plan. Obviously, things may not go to plan. However, it can absolutely go the best that it can when you write out a birth plan and you believe for the best. So I hope that this video encouraged you. I hope that you will share with me your birth stories. Please, please, please share your birth stories with me. I would absolutely love that. I have a group that I started on Facebook. I'll leave the link down below to it, and I would absolutely love it if you would join my group and share your stories with me. Also, if you're looking for a little bit more guidance, I'd love to answer some questions that you have in further detail in that group. So I'll leave the link down below for you guys, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching this, you guys, and I hope and pray for the best for you during your birth if you're having a baby very soon. All right, well, I'll see you next time in another video very soon. Bye-bye.